Capital punishment has been used by every society since the dawn of civilized man to have criminals pay the ultimate price for their heinous crimes. From stoning to the guillotine to hanging, and now with modern lethal injection, capital punishment has turned from a grotesque consequence for capital crimes to a very mellow human euthanasia, reserved for the most brutal crimes. I'm very empathetic towards families and certain individuals who are victims in this sense. Murder victims and their families deserve none of the pain caused by this careless act. The death penalty should not be repealed, rather enforced. It gives the perpetrator the exact punishment they deserve, saves states thousands of dollars in prison fees, and for many, life in prison has no chance of rehabilitation. This speech will outline the reasons for a pro-death sentence culture and provide evidence supporting the case. The history of the death penalty is pretty extensive. The first uses for this capital punishment date back to 16th century BC Egypt. The death penalty was enforced for over 25 different crimes, but murder was not one of those crimes. Weirdly enough, the first ever recorded death penalty was against a member of nobility for the use of magic, and he was forced to take his own life with an axe. Although America doesn't follow through with the death sentence for the use of magic, the main causes of capital punishment is for murder. Other capital punishments include treason, espionage, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. For many, roughly 50% of Americans, as reported in Art Smith's death penalty survey in 2001, it is believed that capital punishment should be enforced as an eye-for-eye measure. The punishment should fit the crime. And that's exactly what has been enforced since the death penalty has been started in America. Abraham Lincoln once said, "Those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves, and under a just God cannot long retain it." This is interpreted as others who take the freedom or life away from another don't deserve to have their own freedom for themselves, which also means they don't deserve life for themselves. Pretty much one who takes the life of another should have to pay the ultimate price. While on the topic of price, a lethal injection round of chemicals is significantly cheaper than housing an inmate in prison for life. In a modern society, everyone is concerned with money, their tax dollars, where their taxes are going, and what they're paying for. The math is simple here. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, one round of lethal injection shots costs around $600 to $8,000, depending on the state. This is obviously a one-time cost. The yearly approximation for an inmate being housed in a federal prison equates to around $35,000 annually. When spending life in prison, approximately 60 years, it's roughly $2.1 million in taxpayers' money per inmate sentenced to a life in prison for a capital offense. Now, I'm not saying that we should use the lethal injection for every single murder conviction. I believe that this punishment is strictly exclusive for inmates who have committed a crime too awful to be reconsidered for rehabilitation while inside the prison. Rehabilitation is the main effect that is intended from any prison sentence. This is especially expected when dealing with an inmate whose sentence has lasted a lifetime. Crime Museum's report on rehabilitation effects of prison sentences stated that research has very, very, very consistently shown that prison inmates actually turn to the opposite of what is expected. A majority of all criminals return to a life of crime when eventually they are let out of prison. This is a very logical argument for the inmates who are warranted to be convicted with a death penalty. Rupert Taylor of Owlcation interviewed with multiple killers who were caught, and many confessed that they would kill again if given the chance and they were let out. It was also found that there were 59 convicted murderers in the United States who killed again when they were released between the mid-1960s and the 1990s. Pretty much, one who commits a capital crime deserves the death penalty sentence and should rightfully be given that sentence. If reports show that consistently prison inmates return to their lifestyle after being released, can we not expect the exact same behavior from that inmate? Should we not expect them to continue to murder and commit additional crimes against society? Today I've looked into the causes for the death penalty and the reasons capital punishment should not be repealed. We discussed the eye for an eye measure, the punishment should fit the crime. We also looked into how the death sentence can save Americans millions in tax dollars. And we saw how rehabilitation is almost non-existent with prison inmates after they are released. Do we really want criminals who have committed heinous crimes against other people to be released from their sentence and continue to not benefit society and strictly unbenefit society? As Nancy Reagan once said, I believe people would be alive today if there were a death penalty. Thank you.